Hi, everybody. Good morning or afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. Um, so yesterday I introduced you to the six kingdoms. Today, just kind of a quick recap. Remember, we were talking about classification. The broadest section is the domain, and there are three different groups for that domain: archaea, bacteria, and eukaryote. Within those domains, they branch to more specific kingdoms. Um, I wanted to tell you that under the domain Archaea, it's going to have the kingdom Archebacteria, like ancient bacteria. Under the domain Bacteria, it'll branch out into the kingdom Eubacteria, which are very common bacteria, is kind of found everywhere. Under Eukarya, this one branches out into four different kingdoms: Protista, fungi, animalia, and plantae. Today, maybe tomorrow, I'm not positive yet, but we're going to talk about Archebacteria and Eubacteria. So when we talk about these kingdoms, now they're getting more specific, and we're starting to really look at if they're prokaryotic or eukaryotic, if they're unicellular, multicellular, if they're autotrophs, heterotrophs, and kind of like things like where they live, what they look like, etc. So for the kingdom Eubacteria, that means like true bacteria. This is a bacteria that's kind of found everywhere. They're prokaryotic, do not have nucleuses. They're unicellular. They're just cells that are just one-celled organisms. That's it. Super tiny, microscopic. They actually can be autotrophic. They can make their own food. And they're heterotrophic. They eat, like they grow off other things. They're kind of spherical, or they're like rod shaped, kind of like in this picture here. And they're found everywhere, like soil, rocks, ocean, snow, and us. So that's like how we get sick. Let's see. I had some examples up here. So Eubacteria examples, and there's many more, but just like E. coli, Salmonella. I can't pronounce a lot of these, but like a bacteria that can cause us to have ulcers. You kind of see the shape of them. Um, they're just found everywhere, but a lot of them can be circular or like rod shaped, as you can see in these pictures. Yeah, you could go to Google and just find tons of examples, and they're all going to be crazy names for the most part. Some you might recognize just from hearing it in the news or whatever, but a lot of them are going to be crazy names. If I move on to the kingdom Archebacteria, they're going to be a lot different from the bacteria here. They're going to have some similarities, like they're prokaryotic, no nucleus, and unicellular, of course. Those will be similar. They can be autotrophic and heterotrophic, of course, but they're going to be found in really weird environments, like really hot areas or cold areas, etc. So if I go to some examples here, they're going to have really weird names. But you can kind of see in the parentheses, it tells you that this kind of bacteria, or this kind of archebacteria, is a lover of the cold. It's going to live in extremely cold environments. This one's going to live in acidic environments. This one's going to live in methane environments. This one's going to live in like salty environments, maybe like the oceans, salt, etc. And this one's going to be like in thermal spring, like heat spring, kind of like geothermal-ish areas. So those are Archebacteria and Eubacteria. I'm going to show you, I don't know if it's even going to make me log in again because I had it set up and then I didn't record this video right away. But what I'm going to click on is bacteria. It's going to talk to you about the two different kinds, Eubacteria and Archebacteria. It may have me log in again. Yeah. So hold on one second. Oops. And then we'll talk a little about that. All right, so let's get this video playing.
Huh, that's odd. Moby! Did you clone a microscopic version of yourself? Why do I not believe you? Dear Tim and Moby, what are bacteria? From Sarah. Bacteria are single-celled microscopic organisms, and they make up one of the 6 kingdoms of life on Earth. They're also the most abundant form of life on Earth. There's something like 5 nonillion of them right now. 5 nonillion? That's a 5, followed by 30 zeros. Even though they're too small to see with the naked eye, bacteria are all around us. They live in our food, our water, our air, and even inside our bodies. In fact, there are more bacteria inside your digestive tract than there are human beings who have ever lived. Well, I guess there aren't any in your digestive tract, but the ones in my digestive tract are pretty important. They break down molecules that my body can't digest by itself. And without bacteria, cows wouldn't be able to eat grass. Plants need bacteria too. They convert nitrogen in the soil into simpler structures that plants can absorb more easily. Of course, not all bacteria are our friends. Some of them can be pretty nasty, actually. Bacteria are responsible for strep throat, food poisoning, tuberculosis, and a whole bunch of other diseases. Don't worry, most of these infections can be treated by drugs called antibiotics, which kill the offending bacteria. Oh no, bacteria actually come in lots of different shapes and sizes. But the most common forms are rods, spheres, and spirals.
Some can't move, but others move using whip-like strands called flagella.
But whatever they look like, bacteria are prokaryotic cells, meaning that their nuclear material is not surrounded by a membrane. Right, unlike animal and plant cells, most bacterial cells don't contain many complex organelles. Inside their cell walls, they're pretty simple. There's a nucleus-like structure called the nucleoid, which contains genetic material, and also some ribosomes, which make proteins. But that's pretty much it. Some bacteria are able to generate their own energy through photosynthesis, and some survive by digesting chemicals in their environments. Most bacteria reproduce asexually in a process called fission. Fission produces 2 cells with the same genetic material as the parent cell. Some bacteria, though, exchange genetic material in a process that's closer to sexual reproduction. Well, 2 bacteria can exchange genetic material through a thin tube. Bacteria can reproduce very quickly, sometimes as fast as once every 20 minutes. Because their structure is so simple, bacteria can mutate really quickly too, which means they can evolve pretty fast. One thing's for certain though, life as we know it wouldn't exist without bacteria. Yep, bacteria are among the oldest forms of life on the planet. No one really knows the exact order of events, but it's thought that early bacteria evolved around 3.5 billion years ago, roughly the same time as other prokaryotes called Archebacteria or Archaea. And for several billion years, these guys were the only forms of life on Earth. Ooh, pretty. Back then, there was very little oxygen in the atmosphere, but bacteria changed all that. Through photosynthesis, they slowly filled the atmosphere with the oxygen we complex organisms now breathe. After all these years, bacteria and their archaea relatives are still around. You already know where bacteria live. You can find archaea in some of the most extreme places on the planet, like hot springs, salt lakes, and deep ocean vents with no sunlight. Gnarly, man. Seeing how these guys survive in such inhospitable environments gives scientists a peek at what life was like billions of years ago. I hope it wasn't like that.
Okay, so now make sure you go to my to-do for today and complete what is listed there for you.